let's take a look at our top selections for Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at the second of 3 stakes races at Pimlico on Thursday to kick off Preakness week. Race number 8, the $100,000, the Very One Stakes, 5/8 of a mile on the turf for fillies and mares. Before we get to the analysis, remember to head on over to shop.drf.com later this week for the Preakness Day Betting Strategies Kit. Obviously wagering on the Preakness, the Black-Eyed Susan, a really nice supporting cast on Saturday at Pimlico. Shop.drf.com for the Preakness Day betting strategies. Here's the field for the Very One Stakes, 5/8 of a mile. It is a big field. We've got JoJo Air from Southern California coming off of a nice victory. The 10 Peaceful, 2 starts back, went gate to wire on an easy lead at Saratoga. These are 2 fillies with some upside potential, Mike, but I know you're not big fans of either one of them.
Yeah, I'm not. They're both pretty good, though, and they could improve again, I guess. I just see them as the 2 morning line favorites, Dan, and it makes me want to get involved in this race.
Well, one of the keys to this race is the 14 Chalon, who's closing in on $1 million in earnings, second in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint a couple of years ago. This is her turf debut, Mike, and really, if she can transfer her best dirt form to turf, she's the best horse in the race, right?
That's true. Whether she can do it or not is another question, Dan. We'll see what happens. It does sort of feel like there's a little bit of an air of desperation here with this move.
We'll throw up the Timeform U.S. pace projector for this race. Not surprising in a 5/8 of a mile turf dash. It is a red bar situation, and the number 1 Giggling does have a lot of early speed and is expected to put the pedal to the metal from the inside post. I do think the 11's got to be closer to the pace, though, Mike. Hear My Prayer's one-way speed, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a really fast horse. She's off a layoff in this race, but I don't see any way that, what do they have, her 7th or 8th there on the pace projector? I don't see any way that she's that far back.
As for Giggling, the horse that is expected to make the lead, according to Timeform US, she has won 2 of her last 3 races in off-the-turf starts. She is 0 for 2 on turf. But Cal Lynch is a very good trainer, and he's going to put Giggling right back on the turf. The last time she was on the surface was last year as a 2-year-old, where she caught a good field in the Anne Arundel County, close to a fast pace. She was one of 4 next out winners, but just off the cold dope, she just seems more effective on dirt.
I mean, yeah, they ran her twice on turf last year as a 2-year-old, Dan. She didn't run well either time. But her dirt form is actually really good. They are insistent on getting her onto the grass here. So maybe that means something. She has clearly improved as a 3-year-old. So we'll see what happens here if she gets to run on turf this time. I really don't want her on this surface. I think she's a better dirt horse. She's bred to be a better dirt horse. But you know what? This is a very sharp trainer. He wants to run her on this surface.
Never Enough Time is the 2 in here. She's entered main track only, so we'll skip to the 3. A Great Time. It was takes place to New York 2 starts back in a race run in a driving rainstorm. The license fee. She broke well. She kind of got taken back. She ran okay in between horses. She got the class relief she needed last time out, running over the Tapeta at Presque Isle Downs. And not only did she get some class relief, she got a really nice trip prompting moderate fractions.
Yeah, she had a soft trip last time and did what she had to do. I thought she ran pretty well in the license fee too back then. Ultimately turned away in that race, but she made a pretty good run at the winner there, down to about the 16th pole, and then just got shrugged off and settled for 3rd. But I thought she ran fine there. And her overall form is good. I like her tactical speed. She looks like she's going to be a price in this race. I want to use this horse somewhere.
The number 4, Dendrobia, is a 1-run closer that is really going to hope that Timeform US pace projector is correct and this falls apart, as it did last time for her. Not only did she get the pace, but she got a beautiful trip and ride by Forrest Boyce. Let's watch Dendrobia's win on June the 13th. And again, she's far, far out of it as they turn into the stretch, but they're just going very fast. And Dendrobia is going to gradually make her way to the far outside. She has a lot of work to do, but this is a long stretch at Laurel, and the horses on the lead are on fumes. She gets up late. She has to prove she can do this against stakes horses.
Yeah, just kept staying on to the end of that race and finally closed it down at the end with a nice late run, Dan. She's going to have to do a lot better than that against this field, but it should set up for her.
The 5 Wild About Star is mildly interesting to me. Her last 2 races were on the dirt. I'm not going to hold any of those starts against her. 3 back, she ran against a very sharp horse named Goldwood, who came back to win 2 stakes on the turf with Stereo 94 Buyers. And 4 starts back, all she did was win this race, beating a couple of next out winners. Now, she was very close to the pace when she won this race last year. I'm not sure it's going to be as easy for her to get that kind of trip in this year's edition.
Yeah, that's a big question for her. Can she get the trip that she wants? Because she does feel like a horse who wants to be close to the pace. But her turf sprint form was good heading into this race last year. And JoJo Air was in that race. She's the morning line favorite this time. And she beat JoJo Air on the square in this race last year. She's going to be a much better price than that horse come around this time. And I'm going to use this horse somewhere.
Tracy Ann's Legacy, the number 6, has won 2 out of her last 3 races, including her most recent turf start. This race at Monmouth on July the 19th. Now, I know it's only a claiming race. She won this race very easily. She was involved with another horse early. She just roasted that horse on the turn, and she just keeps right on going. Very impressive visual effort. 89 Beyer speed figure. If you believe that number, it puts her on the cusp of being a contender in this spot. She's going to have to do it against tougher horses, a tougher pace situation. But I liked what I saw from that last race at Monmouth.
She looked really good winning that race. And it's not the only fast race she's ever run, Dan. Earlier this year at Tampa going 5, she also ran a pretty fast race. So it didn't come out of nowhere. I really thought she looked good winning that race. She does. She's got a little bit of a need the lead type of feel to me. And I think that could really work against her in here. But I have no knocks on this horse at a big price.
The 7 Ode to Joy, listen, all of her turf sprints are good, and she has excuses for her last 2 races. She ran on dirt last time out against Chalone. That's Chalone's game, and certainly not Ode to Joy, who was making her dirt debut and doesn't appear to like it. And 2 starts back, well, she made her synthetic debut against Jean Elizabeth, who's just a synthetic freak. So you go back 3 starts ago, and she wins off a minor layoff coming from off the pace against a couple of next out winners. Listen, she's got some upside potential, and she's going to get the right setup. I think she has a chance to maybe even drift into double-digit territory on the tote.
Yeah, I would take her at the morning line probably, but I do think she could drift off that as well. Obviously, she's going to have to run a faster race to beat this field. I think she has it in her, Dan. She's very lightly raced. Every one of her turf sprint starts is good, in my opinion. I really liked her win back in May, and I liked her races prior to that as well, and she fits the flow of this race very well.
I know you're not a JoJo Air fan, but I think even you have to admit this race we're going to show, the Daisy Cutter Handicap, was one of her best efforts. She's going to make the lead in the stretch here, and the horse she's going to hold off, the gray horse, Lighthouse, is in just fantastic form. Lighthouse came out of this race to win a stakes race at Kentucky Downs with a 96 Beyer, and JoJo Air is just fending her off in the stretch. She's got good tactical speed. She doesn't need the lead to win, and she ran well enough over this course last year. 3-1's a little bit light on the tote, but she's a contender if she runs that last race.
Yeah, that's the best race she's ever run by far. I will not deny that, and if that's what she is now, then I guess she's just going to be a handful in here. I'm just not a big fan of hers. I don't really like any of her prior races, and I'm not taking her as the favorite in here.
Mr. Al's gal has competed very admirably on dirt in her last 3 races. Of course she is. She's 12 for 25 lifetime on dirt. The last time she ran on turf, however, she was a winner, but it was against weaker Louisiana-bred competition sprinting on the turf. I wonder if we've seen her best race. Limited upside after 32 starts. She's had a really nice career.
She really has. She just doesn't really feel like she's quite as good on turf as she is on dirt, and that could be a problem for her in here, but she's a nice horse.
Now, Peaceful has come from off the pace in the past. She was forced to do so in her second lifetime start as a 3-year-old last year at Saratoga when she broke slowly. Her big win 2 starts back at Saratoga, this race that we're going to show, boy, she doesn't get it any easier on the front end. She's been able to make the lead and go 22-3. And once she was able to walk away with that opening fraction, it was over. She beat a decent field, but the pace is going to be a lot faster this time around. She's probably going to have to come from out of it.
Yeah, she probably is. Listen, she's very lightly raced. She could improve. I certainly recognize that. It's not like she doesn't have any ability, because she does. I'm just not a fan. Having seen all of her races in New York, I just don't really like anything about her, Dan. And she's the second choice on the morning line in here. She is not for me.
The 11, Hear My Prayer, is 3 for 3 in true turf sprints. That's 5/8 of a mile, 1 turn. The only loss on turf game going 2 turns, going 7.5. Let's watch her last race, the Melody of Color Stakes. It was a race off a little bit of a layoff. She's even money. She's supposed to beat this field, and she buries them. She wins with an 80 Beyer, a career best. It's a little light compared with some of the others. She's going to face older horses for the first time off another layoff. I think she has what it takes to improve. I think we haven't seen her best yet, but it's going to be interesting to see how she deals with other pace contenders.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a really fast pace could really work against her, because she does feel like a horse who will try to make the lead in here. She's just really fast, has very easy speed, Dan. All three of her turf sprint wins, I mean, just made the lead with no trouble at all because she's really, really fast. And then all three of them are just completely dominant scorers. She looks really good to me. This is a very long layoff facing a much better field. So obviously she's going to have to take a step forward. But around 10-1 as the morning line has her, I don't see how I don't use this horse.
Big price on the morning line for our next two contenders, the 12 Captain Sam, the 13 Not in Jeopardy, both 20-1 on the line. Let's watch Captain Sam's last race. A little bit of class relief. They sent her down to Penn National. She's taken over the lead right now, pushed a solid enough pace and goes on to win, but this was not the strongest field. The third place finisher, Unicoi, came back to win, but it was against 25,000 numbers of one other than a Colonial with a 79 buyer. I think this is one of her best races, and it pales in comparison to some of the best races we've seen from some of the major contenders.
Yeah, that's a big problem for her, as is her running style, Dan. I mean, she's a one-way speed horse with tons of pace to her inside.
Not in Jeopardy, the 13. This is a big ask. She's cutting all the way back from 1 1/16 to 5.5 furlongs. I think she's just going to be out-sprinted in the early portion of this race, and is going to hope for a hot pace and some racing luck. But she was up close to a very fast pace against a good horse in Valiance last time out. And 2 starts back, she caught Theodora B, who's a pretty legitimate stakes horse in her own right. I just wonder if the 5 is really, really sharp for her.
It feels like it is. She's turning all the way back for this race. She has closed and won sprinting on the grass before. That was a couple years ago. So you know that she can do it, but it just doesn't feel like that's her best running style.
Here's Shalone, second in the 2018 Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. And while she's had a pretty good year, I mean, she's won half of her starts, it just seems like maybe she's lost a half a step, because the Shalone that we're used to is the one that can run those low 90 buyer speed figures just one after another. And she struggled to reach 90 this year on dirt. She's trying turf. She's got all the class. I just don't see the turf in this pedigree.
Yeah, it feels like she's lost a step or two, and they're just going to try something different here, because what else can you really do with her, Dan? She's out of conditions. You know that she's not really competitive with the stakes horses on dirt anymore, so you try something different and see if it works out. I'll be surprised if it does, and I don't want to bet her at, even close to her morning line, but she's a really nice horse. If she handles turf, she could be competitive.
Foolish Humor was one of those Wesley Ward juvenile debut winners that showed up at Royal Ascot. She's back now. She's back in form. Let's watch her last race. It was all the way back in May. She went right to the front in this race, and she's able to just hold on in the shadow of the wire. Career best 75 buyer speed figure. Another lightly raced 3-year-old trying elders for the first time. Tough outside post position for a filly with her running style.
It is, and all the speed doing the inside doesn't help her. That was the best race of her career, though, the last time we saw her, and there's a chance she could take another step forward here, Dan. She's going to have to.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the very one at Pimlico on Thursday. Ode to Joy's Where You're Going. I like the setup she's going to get in this race, and she's dirtied up by her last 2, one on dirt, one on synth. That's not her game.
Yeah, that's exactly how I looked at it, Dan. I like all of her turf sprints. I think she fits the flow of this race really well, and I think she even has more improvement in her. At anything like her morning line, that's where I'm going.
I'm going to go with the 6, Tracy Ann's Legacy. I do realize this is a big step up in class for her. I like the way she won last time out. It was a pretty facile victory. Now let's see if she can do it with some additional speed types that she's going to have to face. I think JoJo Air is going to run very well. Like you, I'm not a huge fan, but I like that last race, and she just fits at 5/8. 7-11, 5-3 for Mike, 6-8, 11-10 for me. It's the very one stakes at Pimlico on Thursday. Best of luck.